Joel Griffith, who is a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative public policy think tank. Joel, really great to have you with us. When you listen to some of the remarks in Joe Biden's speech, it just really sounds eerily similar to America First, which, of course, is something that targeted working class Americans, particularly in blue states, where we saw Democrats lose in 2016. Does Biden's plan do enough to set himself apart as a candidate, particularly when it comes to the economy?
Hey, you're making some interesting points there. The fact is, when it comes to international trade, President Biden has been on both sides of the issues for a year. Back when he was in the Senate, he supported NAFTA. Then he called for revising NAFTA. He supported free trade deals for a time. And then in the years prior to him becoming vice president, he actually opposed 4 different major trade deals leading up to that. And then same thing with Trans-Pacific Partnership several years ago. That was a big deal that ended up not being approved. He was a big proponent of it, and now he's backtracked and said that will not be at the top of his agenda. So it's hard to know where exactly he's actually going to fall on this. But what we do know is that he has supported for years this notion of fair trade, which is very Orwellian. Basically, it would force our international trading partners to abide by these guidelines regarding environment and labor that are favored by left-wing special interest groups. That would be a drag on growth, both for our neighbors and also for us. That's what we know. Think about the Paris Accords. That would force us to rein in our carbon emissions. He's supported that, and we know that would drive up costs of living for middle class in this country and across the globe. All of that would be just as dangerous, if not far more dangerous, than the protectionism that is also a concern.
Joel, the bigger question here might be, what is the issue that is going to decide this election? We've seen the president's polling numbers waver between the pandemic and the protests. A lot of people would have said prior to all of this, he might have been a shoo-in for 2020 at this point because the economy was doing so well, and we've seen record stock market numbers. Do you think the economy is what is going to become the deciding issue for voters in 2020?
Well, it's not, the economy is not the only issue, but it's a very important issue. And if you look back to where we're at just before the COVID-19 crisis, we had unemployment that was the lowest in our lifetimes. We had household income that was the highest. And we saw this after a historically slow recovery. We saw the slowest recovery in post-World War II history under Barack Obama, the slowest, hands down. And over the past few years, we saw economic growth accelerate. And I think Americans remember that. And that was caused not by big government spending or programs. It was caused by deregulation, lower taxes, and allowing entrepreneurs and people to pursue their dreams. That's what created economic growth up until a few months ago. And that's what will actually pull us out of the current crisis.
Joel, one more quick question before we have to pivot to some other news. When you have Joe Biden to pledge to bring back millions of jobs that have been lost as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of experts are saying a lot of those jobs aren't coming back. So is that a false promise at this point?
Well, a lot of those very same experts were saying we're not predicting that we are going to see nearly 8 million jobs come back the last 2 months. We saw nearly 5 million jobs created in June. We saw more than 2 million that came back in May. And so long as we allow people to get back to their lives and get back to work, we'll continue to see those jobs come back into our economy.
All right, Joel Griffith with the Heritage Foundation. We really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for that.